And we begin in Georgia, where a judge is about to convene a hearing in this sweeping election interference case into Donald Trump and his allies. It's the first since proceedings were in limbo over a motion to dismiss Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, and since several charges were actually dismissed in the case. I want to bring in MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, also former Georgia federal prosecutor Amy Lee Copeland, and former U.S. Attorney Harry Litman. So, Lisa, what exactly is this hearing about today?
So, Jose, we have a number of motions regarding the indictment that still haven't been dealt with by Judge Scott McAfee. That's in large part because for over 2 months, Judge McAfee was dealing with the motion to disqualify DA Fani Willis. The motions today go to President Trump's assertion of his First Amendment rights, and in particular saying that the allegations in the indictment go to his right to have core political speech, that they are trying to criminalize his right to say that the election was stolen from him, but are not themselves emblematic of criminal conduct on his behalf.
And Lisa, where does the case stand now? I mean, we were unsure if this was going to continue some time ago.
We were. And Jose, we were also unsure if it continued, who it would continue with. Now that we know that DA Willis remains in control of the case, we will get to a point where she will ask Judge Scott McAfee to set a trial date. So far, she has insisted that one trial should happen of all defendants who remain as of a particular point in the pretrial proceedings. She has said that June should be the deadline for any defendant who wants to cut a plea deal with Fulton County District Attorney's Office to do so, and that a trial should happen in August. Last week in public comments, she doubled down on that, saying that she wants a trial to happen this summer. Let's see whether representatives of her office and or the district attorney herself try to make that a part of today's hearing. It's not formally on the agenda that Judge McAfee has set forth for today's hearing.
So as we see these live pictures from Atlanta, that hearing has begun. And Amy Lee, as Lisa was referencing, we still haven't received a start date. When could we expect that? And how much did this motion to dismiss Willis push things back here?
Well, Jose, good morning. Let me answer the second question first, because I think that's the easier one. Right now, it's wending its way through an application process with the Georgia Court of Appeals. We should know in a couple of months whether or not the Georgia Court of Appeals will hear this disqualification motion. If they do, that could lead to an opinion sometime in November at the earliest. That would really push the trial date back, because while Judge McAfee said he's not going to say anything other than the disqualification motion, who can try a case certainly seems to go to the disqualification motion and go to whether they can set the case itself. But the DA has always said that she's ready to go, and I have no doubt about it. She said she just needs 30 days. Today at the hearing, too, we're going to hear a lot about the First Amendment claims. Just as a reminder, these have been roundly rejected by various courts. Judge Chutkan rejected it in the January 6th case. In a prior First Amendment challenge by defendants in this case who pleaded guilty, Judge McAfee said some of these things need to be addressed at trial. So I don't expect the defendants to get much traction with their First Amendment motion today.
And so, Amy Lee, could we say maybe that this case is now back on track?
I hope it's back on track. It needs to be back on track. A lot, though, rests on what the appellate court's going to do. And like I said, that's about a 45 to 60-day out decision that we're waiting for.
So, Harry, does Trump have any shot at getting this entire case thrown out?
No, not today. Look, just as Lisa said, this has been around the bend in many different courts. And before this, of course, crimes can be committed by speech. Many are, like conspiracy and solicitation and the exhortation he made on the ellipse on January 6th. That doesn't make them protected by the First Amendment. There's a very strong line that the Supreme Court has drawn between lawful political speech and unlawful solicitation, or unlawful conspiracy, or unlawful RICO, as is the court charge in this case. And I think it's just McAfee wanting to get back on track. It's sort of a basic work-a-day motion, and maybe that's why he chose it now to sort of get proceedings back to order. But Trump's prospects for prevailing here are slim to none.
And so, Lisa, I mean, so what does the judge have the authority to do or not do today?
So, Jose, he could reject certain of these pretrial motions to dismiss the indictment in whole or in part from the bench. He could also reserve judgment and say that we'll see where he's headed in a written opinion in the future. Judge McAfee generally has not ruled from the bench in this case, but that doesn't mean he hasn't given us an indication of where he's leaning. My instinct is that today he will let us know how he's feeling. He'll telegraph what he's going to do with these motions. I agree with Harry that these motions are not likely to get rid of either all or part of the case, but we'll likely have to wait for a written opinion from him. And of course, he's got a lot of other pretrial motions to deal with, the most notable of which is a motion to dismiss from former President Trump on presidential immunity grounds. Judge McAfee, of course, may be holding his fire on that motion until after April 25th, when the Supreme Court holds oral argument on President Trump's efforts to get rid of the federal election interference case on those same grounds.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.